Hi, I'm Mike of Nearly Enough Dice. This is the Kerbal Space Program. We're at Moonhopper 3 at times 4 normal speed, underneath the last of those rock arches. I'm going to do a couple of science biomes. So I've made myself a waypoint off to the north, which is the East Farside Crater, I believe. It's one of the Farside craters. So I'm heading off there. I actually called myself a bit of a problem. Oh, that was horrible. There's some kind of graphics glitch has cropped up, but I'm going to need to fix that. But by going into biome mode, which I needed to look at anyway, that'll fix that. But I was actually I had a problem with by the time that I had got myself pointing the correct direction and got my apoapsis over the target, and then calculated when I would need to stop in order to land directly on the target, I was actually already too close. I actually ran out of time, so I needed to be like within 20 kilometers to start my burn to slow down and then stop and all that kind of good stuff. And I was already within 15 kilometers when that happened. So I even paused the game. This is what you're looking at right now. I even paused the game to give myself more time, and it didn't help. Which is slightly embarrassing. But there you go. It wasn't an important waypoint. It wasn't a waypoint where I needed to be accurate. It was literally just a marker to say this is where the biome starts. This is vaguely where you want to end up. So that was fine. I didn't crash, which is the main thing. I mean, you look how horrible it. It's a really lumpy terrain here. But I was entirely happy to leave that waypoint behind. I just wanted to land somewhere vaguely nice. Vaguely nice and not crash. That was really all I really wanted. So I was a bit worried. So I was doing some adjustments about do I want to just go to the prograde, or do I want to be a bit more paranoid? But I eventually just went prograde. Fell out the sky. It was all fine. Looking around to see where the sun is. I didn't even spend that much in the way of fuel, so it's all perfectly nice and lovely. So I land. It was not a bad landing. It's one of my standard ones where I'm doing really well, and then I kind of accidentally hit the Z key and go shooting up into the air again. Slightly annoys me. So even sped up at high speed, you can actually see me kind of bouncing up and down as I'm fiddling with the controls. But better safe than sorry. I no longer land very straight anymore. I think the legs have gotten a bit bent. I don't think they're attached quite the way they normally expect to be attached, so they're a bit bent. So gathering up fuel and everything, did some preliminary science. I'm doing the same thing where I'm transmitting as much of my science as possible before taking it aboard. So I haven't done this for everything, so I might need to go back and do a few biomes, but basically every science I get from now on should have no transmittable value, and therefore that it is, you absolutely want it on your craft as opposed to transmitting it. So I'm having another look. I realized that was me checking to see why I wasn't getting that much science from here. I thought I hadn't been here before, but in fact I had. This is in fact the very same crater, an enormous crater this is, but I landed on this crater with my very first Mun landing for this career mode. So he's very far away from from this side. I'm literally on the other side of the crater, but grabbing lots of science. I'm going to grab the materials-based stuff. It's all good stuff. It's all nice and easy. So once I've finished here, the reason I wanted to come up here was that there's a canyons biome right nearby. If I zoom out enough, the map mode starts to come in. So I actually end up placing another waypoint. Again, not really like I must hit here and nowhere else. Just to indicate this is where the canyons start. But obviously I need to refuel first, so I kind of do that. And bring up my ladders. Especially when it comes to the canyons, I don't necessarily want to go straight to that particular waypoint, because Canyons, they sound like a place that's going to be very slopey and slightly frightening to land in. So once I got refueled, the plan was to hover towards it, because it's only just under 8 kilometers away. The plan was to hover towards it, and then, you know, just basically look for a good landing spot. So yeah, wasn't the most controlled start there. I wasn't quite sure which way I was pointing. But I eventually got on track. And this was actually a fairly nice, smooth hover. I mean, my hands were pretty much off the controls for all of this. I would basically, you know, vaguely aim towards the thing. Oh, that's me realizing that I accidentally didn't take one of the signs from one of the instruments. So, that's going to be slightly aggravating. Only slightly. I may have to come back if I want to get 100% of science, but never mind. I wanted to take a flying over the crater one, but yeah, doesn't matter. So, from pretty much all this, my hands are off the controls. I'm just drifting along. The hover script is doing its job, keeping me nicely far above the landscape. This feels really fast. I mean, it felt pretty fast. Obviously, it feels a lot faster going at 4 times on speed. But I went up about 20 meters a second over the landscape. I did put my height up another 5 meters just to be. Well, I don't know if I was actually safer doing that, but it felt safer. So that just gave me a little bit of leeway there. So yeah, just drifting along the landscape. And so what I'm looking for is for when it stops being canyons, because the actual waypoint that I've made is on the other side of a ridge. It kind of looks like it's not until you get far out. Then you can start to see that it's actually on the other side of a ridge. And that is obviously a problem because I go towards the ridge and I kind of zoop off it. And theoretically I could plunge down, and if I don't have enough of a buffer with my hover height, then I may end up smashing into the ground, which could be embarrassing. So the plan was to get closer and then cut my horizontal speed when I felt the need, making slight adjustments along the way, and then, you know, drift down slowly, go down that ridge nice and slowly. The biome did at one point change from being the far side crater to being Midlands, which is a bit of a surprise to me. I'm not quite sure how that happened. I suspect that might be just down to the way that biomes are generated. I suspect they're generated as actual texture maps, and if any of the pixels are blurred, they will occasionally show up as a different biome, which is much the same way. There's a stray bit of tundra near the Kerbal Space Center. So I'm just readjusting my angle here, getting closer, and this is where I start thinking I need to slow down because I'm coming up to the edge of that ridge, and I don't want to go flying off that at high speed. I want to take that nice and slow. And round about here, I kind of went, oh wait a minute, I'm on canyons. I'll just stop here then. Yeah, round about here. So yeah, this is me slowing down, just pointing in the direction I'm traveling, and just bringing myself down. And then I like hover landings because you literally I just literally hit the 7 key and it takes my hover height down a meter each time, so I actually can lower myself quite gently and not have to worry about, you know, my EDC normally hitting the Z key. So there you have it. So I get rid of that waypoint, and now I'm going to do a whole bunch of science and get all the sciences. I actually have to I go back in and out and do these things multiple times because I just want to make sure that I've got absolutely every drop of transmittable science, because I don't think there's much point in keeping transmittable science on the actual craft. If I can transmit and get some science out of it, even if it's like literally 1 or 2 points, I reckon I should transmit it and get those science points right now, and then, you know, gather all the science up in the actual craft, and that's going to, hopefully anyway, get returned back to Kerbal. I really need to come up with a way of kind of managing my sciences, because I've got 70 odd at this point, and I'm planning to get even more. And going through all of those and making sure that all the ones that could be transmitted have been transmitted, and seeing which ones I really need to redo again. And that's a pain in the everything, because I've got to go through all 70 of them each time and say, no, keep data, because I don't want to do anything to this one. Quite nice if there's a slightly better interface to that. But hey, I was being a little confused because I'd put a search term on this earlier on. That was why I wasn't getting any science up. So what? Why can't I get any science? Anyway, my next jaunt is hopefully going to be something slightly different, where I'm going to see if I can't rescue an old craft of mine, which was itself a rescue craft, but that ran out of fuel, and see if I can't refuel it, and then take the Munhopper and that craft back to the mining station that I've had for ages and ages and ages and ages. And thus, that mining station has a science research lab attached to it. So I should then be able to put all my science in that and then transmit many, many sciences. You get the science lab to turn that science into data, which you can then transmit back to Kerbal for many, many sciences. At least that's the plan. So, I do hope you'll join me for that. Until then, thanks so much for watching. Do hit like and subscribe if you've been enjoying these videos. Come visit Lily of Enough Dice at neilofenoughdice.com. We are also on Facebook and Twitter. And until next time, reach for the stars.